Good morning, Doncaster. And wow, I'm speechless. It's amazing to see so many people here today, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. The conference today is very much about a celebration of our party's bright future, about setting out our agenda for government with a raft of policies that will put the great, and they will put the great, back into Great Britain. But there is a great deal to do in order to repair our broken and unfortunately divided society. And my speech today will deal with an issue that highlights just how social engineering and political correctness has failed the most vulnerable people in our society today. This issue highlights all the classic signs of failure that is in British politics at the moment, and the lack of backbone and the lack of moral courage of those individuals involved. Earlier this year, I was selected as the prospective parliamentary candidate for the Rotherham Central constituency. I knew it was going to be a hard fight. It had been in the grip of the Labour mafia for 80 years, so I knew I had some work to do. But I didn't expect to be suddenly embroiled in a scandal that absolutely outraged the whole of the country. At 12 o'clock on August 26th, Tuesday, I received a call giving me the first scant details of Professor Alexis Jay's report on child sexual exploitation in Rotherham. I sat at my desk listening as the caller went on to outline the report. An estimated 1,400 children had been groomed, raped, trafficked for sex over a period of 16 years. Mainly by Pakistani and Kashmiri men. I sat there totally dumbfounded. And I thought to myself, well, surely there could have been some mistake in the reporting of this issue. But there wasn't a mistake. White girls had been targeted and abused by men of Asian origin, with little or no intervention from any of the town authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, the details of the report were horrific, but the abuse had included children as young as 11, being trafficked, gang raped, beaten, plied with alcohol or drugs, threatened with knives and guns, and one small child had petrol poured over them and said if they did not conform to what the gang wanted them to do, they were going to be burnt alive. Can you imagine the fear in a small child being told back? Nearly every agency in Rotherham had grossly failed its duty to protect these children. And this is despite the pleas from the victims and, please note, the frontline workers who met a brick wall. The report listed a catalogue of political, policing and procedural failures in Rotherham that led to the police almost spending their time trying to disprove the victims' claims instead of actually trying to find the perpetrators and prosecute them for their crimes. been given 3 separate reports on this over a period of time, but in 2005 had been sat down and given graphic details of what this abuse had actually been about. I wouldn't like to go into them because they are horrific. And still, there was no real positive action. The report reiterated throughout warning after warning went unheeded in the town. And much of this was due, ladies and gentlemen, to political cowardice and worried about keeping their vote. My outrage as a mother, I can't explain today. It's beyond words stood here on this stage. The protection of children should never be about race of the victim or of the offender. It should be... But it should instead be focused on stamping out these horrific crimes wherever and whatever community they are found in. I am angry, very angry with the perpetrators for treating the children in this way, but I am equally angry with those people in the position of power who could have intervened but chose not to through political correctness, or as shamed ex-Labour MP Dennis McShane, or McShane as we call him, put it, because they're a bunch of liberal lefties too afraid to act through their own political selfishness. But there's a great deal of work to be done in helping and supporting the victims of Rotherham, something I am personally committed to getting involved with. These young children and young adults deserve better, and I will do my best to provide what I can personally. But I'm asking everybody here today, if you feel you can help me in any way, please contact me after this conference, because your help will be more than welcome. From the outset of this scandal, I called, and the party called, for resignations of all those directly involved. And we managed to bag a few, including that of Sean Wright, who was horse with the booze, the police crime commissioner, who had served on the as a council cabinet member for children's services, and Joyce Thacker, the children's service director, who led the persecution, and it was persecution, of the UKIP foster parents in 2012. She allowed these horrific sex attacks to go on underneath her nose. However, there are many others that still have questions to answer and possibly charges to face. This includes the 3 Labour MPs for the Rotherham area. That they knew many of the details of what was happening. I am now calling for criminal charges to be brought against those who it can be proved knew about the abuse because in failing to act, they aided and they abetted the perpetrators, and they are just as guilty. I would also like to see far more perpetrators arrested than there has been to date, because the conviction rate regarding victims is woefully low. So we need some more convictions and more people identified. However, it's not all doom and gloom in Rotherham. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope in Rotherham. On Friday, after the Professor Jay's report was released, I was privileged enough to accompany 2 South Yorkshire police officers in their duties on their evening patrol. During the course of this visit, I was introduced to a number of youth groups and their leaders. The patience, dedication and sheer hard work of those frontline staff was inspirational and incredible to see. The positivity and zest for life in the children and the young people and their leaders was infectious. And I left those meetings absolutely convinced that the children of Rotherham hold the key to the town's future. From my experiences, I can't stress enough that I do not hold the frontline workers responsible for any of the problems that the town now faces, as I know that many of them did everything they could to expose what was happening in Rotherham and actually hit that wall. In many ways, they were let down by their leaders, and they are now suffering the undeserved consequences, and they really do need some more support. We also need more support in tackling the continuous abuse that is going on in South Yorkshire on an industrial scale. Today, tomorrow, it has to be stopped. It's now up to us to make sure that Rotherham has a leadership with a clean pair of hands who can help and encourage the frontline staff in their work. The town needs leadership that will put its own political agenda aside and put the people first. A town that will not distinguish between colour, creed, race or religion, and will form a future for Rotherham. This scandal is all about the children, so let's enable the children to be part of the recovery. Give them the support and they will bring the pride back to Rotherham. Take heed, Mr. Miliband, take heed. Together, the Labour Party betrayed the children of Rotherham. And as Mr. Miliband put it, together they conspired to allow the abuse of children on an industrial scale. Together, they failed to apologise, and they kept quiet to suit their political purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you here today, together, UKIP and everybody in this room will stop Labour ever getting the chance of doing that again.